English Daily 15 Minutes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. We're so happy to have you here for another session of daily English practice. It's a beautiful sunny Monday morning, isn't it?
Hi everyone, it really is. I'm drinking my second coffee and feeling ready to chat. Today is going to be a special episode. You know, John, I was thinking this morning about how we always talk about grammar, but what about the actual real-life conversations? We're going to talk about how to keep a conversation going when we feel a bit stuck. It happens to the best of us.
Exactly. We've all been there, right? You meet someone new at a party or a work event, you say, hello, you talk about the weather for 30 seconds, and then silence. Your brain just stops. It's like a total freeze. You look around, maybe check your phone just to look busy.
Yes. That silent moment is the scariest part for many learners. But today, we're going to give you a simple structure to avoid that. We'll share some stories from our own lives to help you feel more comfortable. It's really about being yourself and not worrying about being perfect. You don't need to be Shakespeare to have a great chat.
Let's start with the basics. Sarah, when you go to a coffee shop or a meetup, how do you usually start a conversation? Because I know you're a pro at this. I've seen you talk to strangers like you've known them for years.
Oh, I don't know about being a pro, but I do try to keep it light. Instead of just saying, how are you, which is a bit boring, I try to comment on something in the room, like, that's a great book you're reading, I've heard good things about that author, or, this coffee shop has such a nice atmosphere, don't you think? It's much quieter than the one down the street. It's a way to break the ice. You are observing the world around you.
That's a classic move. It takes the pressure off you and puts the focus on the environment. It's like opening a door for the other person to walk through. It makes them feel comfortable because you aren't asking them personal questions right away.
Exactly. And it's not about being clever. It's about being present. How about you, John? You're a very social person. What's your secret? What's the John way of starting a chat?
Well, I like to ask why or how questions. If someone says, I'm a teacher, I don't just say, oh, nice. I say, that sounds interesting. How did you get into teaching? Did you always know you wanted to be in a classroom? It invites them to tell a story. It changes the mood of the conversation from a simple Q&A to a real chat. People love talking about themselves if you give them the space to do it.
Oh, I love that. How did you get into is such a powerful phrase. It immediately makes the conversation deeper. You know, it reminds me of a concept I read about recently. Active listening is really just an idea where you listen to understand, not just to reply. Most people are just thinking about their next sentence instead of hearing what the other person is saying.
That's so true. Active listening really changed how I interact with people, but let's be honest, sometimes things still go wrong. I remember one time I was at a big networking event in London. I was so nervous. I had my suit on, I was holding a drink, and there were hundreds of people in this huge hall. When a woman asked me, what do you do for fun? I completely forgot the word for hiking. I just stood there, my mind went blank, and I said, I like walking fast in the mountains.
Oh, John, that's actually a perfect way to describe it, though. You didn't use the word hiking, but you explained it clearly. That's the most important thing. You don't need a dictionary in your pocket. You just need to be brave enough to explain your thoughts. Sometimes it's certain to happen that we forget a word. It happens to everyone, even native speakers. I remember when I was in Italy, I was trying to explain that I was lost. I had no map, no internet, and the only word I could remember was street. I was just pointing everywhere and saying, street?
That's hilarious, but you managed, right? You survived. I think learners worry too much about using the perfect word, but if you have the idea in your head, you can describe it with the words you already know. Like you said, you weren't lost, you were just looking for the right street.
Exactly. It was a funny moment. I was trying to explain a feeling to a local friend there, and I ended up saying, it's when you feel a little sad and happy at the same time because you're thinking about your childhood. I couldn't remember the word nostalgia, but my friend understood exactly what I meant.
That is a perfect definition. You made them understand your feeling. It makes me think deeply about my own journey. When I look back at my first year of speaking English, I realize how much I've had to change my behavior to fit new situations. I was so rigid at first. I wanted every sentence to be perfect. Now I'm much more flexible.
Being flexible is key. If you don't change, you get stuck. Speaking of getting stuck, what do you do when you really need the other person to give you more information? Sometimes people give short answers like yes or no. It's so frustrating.
Oh, that's easy. I just say, could you explain that in more detail? It's like giving them a compliment because you're telling them that their story is so interesting that you want to hear more. People love being told that their story is interesting.
That's so true. It gives them a chance to share their point of view. I find that when I travel, it gives me a new perspective on the world. It's like seeing things through a different lens. For example, my perspective on city life changed completely after I lived in a small village for a month.
I agree 100%. And you know, sometimes people are more natural and unplanned than we expect. I wish I were more spontaneous sometimes. I tend to plan everything too much. My calendar is color-coded, my meals are planned. It's a bit much, honestly.
Maybe you should try it. But remember, you always need to communicate with others to get those experiences. It's the core of everything. It is so interesting to see how people connect and share ideas. Whether it's at a grocery store, a gym, or an airport, every person has a story if you just engage them.
It is. And when you connect, you might notice a very important change in how you feel. That's what we want for our listeners, right? A noticeable improvement in their confidence. It's not about becoming fluent overnight. It's about becoming a better communicator.
Absolutely. And always remember to attract the other person's attention and keep them interested. If you aren't interesting to them, the conversation dies. You have to put some energy into it.
That's very true. You know, looking at the time, I think we've really covered a lot today. We've talked about how to start, how to handle the brain freeze, and how to use these 15 important words to keep going. Sarah, should we go over them together to help our listeners? Let's make sure they can really use these in their own lives.
Yes, let's do that. I'll say the word, and you explain what it means, then we can both give a quick example.
Perfect. Let's start.
The first word is observant.
Observant means you are good at noticing small details around you. For example, she is very observant and noticed my new haircut immediately.
Nice one. Next is atmosphere.
Atmosphere describes the mood or feeling of a place. Like when we say, this restaurant has a very warm and friendly atmosphere.
True. How about concept?
Concept is just an idea or a principle. For example, the concept of this new project is quite difficult to understand.
I agree. What about networking?
Networking means meeting people to share information or professional contacts. You could say, networking is vital for finding new job opportunities.
Very true. Let's explain reflect.
To reflect simply means to think deeply about something. Like, I need some time to reflect on my career goals.
Good one. How do you explain dynamic?
Dynamic is the way people behave and interact with each other. For instance, the family dynamic changed after they moved to a new city.
Perfect. Next is elaborate.
To elaborate means to explain something in more detail. You could say, could you elaborate on your plans for the weekend?
Yes, I love that. What about perspective?
Perspective is your particular way of considering something or your point of view. Like, traveling gives you a new perspective on the world.
Exactly. Let's move to spontaneous.
Spontaneous means doing things naturally without too much planning. We decided to take a spontaneous trip to the beach.
Sounds like fun. How about interact?
To interact means to communicate or work with other people. It is interesting to see how animals interact with each other.
That's a great example. What does significant mean?
Significant means something is very important or large enough to be noticed. There has been a significant change in my daily routine.
Right. And what about inevitable?
Inevitable means something is certain to happen and cannot be avoided. It was inevitable that they would become friends eventually.
Makes sense. Let's talk about adapt.
To adapt means to change your behavior to fit new situations. It takes time to adapt to a new job environment.
We are almost there. What is engage?
To engage means to attract someone's attention and keep them interested. You need to engage the audience if you want to give a good speech.
And the final one, nostalgia.
Nostalgia is that feeling of being a little sad and happy at the same time when thinking about the past. I feel a lot of nostalgia when I visit my old primary school.
That was a fantastic session, John. I think this will really help our listeners.
I hope so too. We've covered a lot today, from personal stories to these 15 essential words. Remember, everyone, you don't need to learn them all at once. Just pick one and try to use it this week.
Exactly. Thank you all for spending this time with us. It's not just English practice, it's an investment in yourself. We really appreciate your time.
We'll see you in the next episode. Keep practicing, keep reflecting, and stay confident.
Bye, everyone.